Hi there, this is live. Hoy, Middle East war, Yemen, Suez Canal video, UK 24.
The results were captured on Houthi television, showing these explosions and reporting significant
Wow.
damage in cities, including the
Date today is
capital
the
Sanaa.
12th of January,
Houthi rebels are a tribal
24 guys. Time's down there.
much of Yemen
It's only 3 a.m. in the morning.
coast. They've declared their support for Hamas and Gaza, and since November they've been attacking ships in the Red Sea. Britain, the US and UN have all demanded a stop to the attacks. The UK government say they've been forced to act after giving repeated warnings.
We cannot have a situation where a major sea route,
It's costing the UK and America a lot of money, and the Northern Hemisphere a lot of money now.
terrorists involved, and we therefore must act.
It took long enough to sort that.
The container ship in November, seizing the vessel and its crew and steering it back to Yemen. The rebels have defied all warnings to stop targeting shipping. Their attacks are having a global effect. Around 15% of world trade passes the Bab al-Mandab Strait, but no major shipping companies like BP and Maersk are having to avoid the Red Sea altogether. They're rerouting around the far side of Africa, adding days to the journey and driving.
They talked about this last year, if you remember, guys.
The Ministry of Defense said the bombing
Took long enough to get that to go, didn't they?
On the HMS
Too slow.
And US Navy vessels on Tuesday. In a statement, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said the UK stands up for freedom and the free flow of trade, adding that the strikes were limited and necessary. This morning, the US Central Command released this footage of military planes taking off from an aircraft carrier at sea. The US President said the strikes were in direct response to unprecedented Houthi attacks against international maritime vessels in the Red Sea, including the use of anti-ship ballistic missiles for the first time in history. The Houthis, helped by Iran, have plenty more missiles and have vowed to use them, which is why the US and UK say they must now bear the consequences. Louisa Pilbeam, BBC News.
Our political correspondent Ian Watson joins us now from Downing Street. Ian, morning to you. The language that the Prime Minister has used includes limited but necessary self-defence. Of course, this is a joint operation with the United States. He came about that decision how quickly?
He did come about the decision very quickly. That decision was taken last night here in Downing Street. Naga, he briefed his cabinet on the conference call. He also briefed the Shadow Defence Secretary, the Speaker of the House of Commons, and by remote, he was in the northwest of England, the Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer. Now, Rishi Sunak is justifying this as an act of self-defence because of the disruption to commercial shipping in the Red Sea, the costs associated with that. And he's suggesting that the level of disruption should not stand. He's in favour of the free flow of trade, he said, and that's why Britain is getting involved in this action, which is of course US-led but supported by a number of other countries. Also saying that because of the support from the UN, the condemnation of these illegal attacks by the Houthi rebels in Yemen by the United Nations, this action is justified too. That said, although he took that action last night, he did not recall Parliament, he did not brief MPs as a whole. It seems likely that he'll be making a statement to Parliament on Monday, and MPs will have a chance to debate that then. But that lack of consultation has been attacked by a number of opposition parties, the SNP, Plaid Cymru, the Liberal Democrats, and it's also been attacked from the left of the Labour Party. Now, they're not simply saying that Parliament should be recalled. What they're saying is that the action itself isn't justified, and former Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell, for example, suggesting that this action could set the region alight. So it will be certainly a controversial statement that the Prime Minister will be making to MPs on Monday. In addition, there may be some doubts on the Conservative side too. I would expect, where this puts a vote, with the backing of the Labour leadership, with most Conservative MPs on side, Rishi Sunak would win in any case. But it was interesting that a former Conservative minister, Neil O'Brien, was saying on social media that while he wasn't necessarily against this action, he wants to know effectively what's the end point, what would success look like in this mission, and is there a danger that Britain could get dragged into something much bigger?
We'll bring some of this up with the Labour leader, Keir Starmer, who's joining us at 8:30, Ian.
This is quite serious, guys.
We understand now that Rishi Sunak has arrived in Ukraine, and there's an increase in terms of spending for military support. What can you tell us?
Yes, that's right. After that meeting here last night and that conference call with his cabinet, he went to Kiev. There's actually, you won't be able to see it possibly, Naga, but there's a Ukrainian flag flying from
Okay.
Rishi Sunak had gone there soon after being Prime Minister. He's gone back to Kiev today with that to offer increased support, £2.5 billion in the next financial year for Ukraine. What is that going to buy? Well, at least 200 million of it, Down the Street are saying, is going to be spent on thousands of drones. In addition to that, long-range missiles, more of those, and also a greater investment in air defence. And Rishi Sunak himself is going to be meeting some of the people in the emergency services in Kiev, for example, who've had to try to clear up the mess caused by Russian attacks, Russian missile strikes,
Aye.
and offer healthcare and emergency care to those affected by the conflict.
Yeah.
Ian, thanks for the moment. Ian, what's next?
There you go, guys. That's what's going on at the
Well,
moment.
let's speak now to our security correspondent, Frank Gard. Very good morning to you, Frank. We are going to talk about the Houthi rebels and this action that the UK is now involved in. It's worth saying, isn't it, that although this was widely expected, it is a
Took long enough, didn't it?
moment when a Prime Minister commits UK military personnel to military action.
Aerodrones to the rescue, I guess.
Definitely. I mean, I think by last night we knew it was on the cards. It was all fairly obvious. Anything that Britain was going to do, it was going to do in concert with the Americans. This was always going to be a US-led operation. It was heavily signalled, I think, by both Grant Shapps, the Defence Secretary, and by Antony Blinken, the US Secretary of State, who's been touring around the region, saying this is the final warning to the Houthis. Stop interfering with shipping or bear the consequences.
The holy war, guys, in the Middle East going on.
Big questions here. One is, how are the Houthis going to react? They've already made defiant statements saying that there's going to be a massive retribution to the US and Britain in some form. And secondly, will it be enough?
We've been to war in the Middle East
I think
loads of times.
It isn't going to be enough to deter them.
Don't forget Richard the Lionheart, King John's brother.
Were kind of baiting the West, looking for a fight. They've got a lot of weapons, a lot of drones, a lot of missiles. They've been trained,
Scary,
armed,
isn't
and
it? Very
equipped
scary.
by the Iranians. Iran denies it, but the evidence is all there. And
Certainly
I don't
is.
think this is going to be a short, sharp thing. I think this could quite possibly go on for some time.
Aye.
When the Saudis tried to dislodge the Houthis back in 2015 by airstrikes, 8 years on, the Houthis are still there. They're pretty resilient.
And Frank, when we look at what Rishi Sunak said this morning, he said the United Kingdom.
This is what they do. They land on ships, on the cargo ships, with the helicopters, and they shoot at you when they come down and kill you.
The reason we are doing this,
I haven't got a chance, guys. I ain't got a chance.
that has an effect on everyone.
I'm noticing. This is the issue, guys.
Yeah, I
Here
mean,
you go.
the shipping industry and the sort of freight container industry has
It's like
been
my
pushing
washing
for some kind of
machine.
action for some time because the US and Britain
It's
had
delayed because of
claimed
this.
that they had sent
The film mates bikes are delayed. They're not in the shop yet. In the shop next as well. See how serious, guys, this is. I told you last year, I'm always 85% right about the future when it comes to things like
So it's blatant maritime piracy and
things like this and other things as well. Pulling out to darkness, literally.
I passed through that passage myself on container ships when Somali maritime piracy was at its height, and it's pretty scary. And
Seriously, not
for the
good.
crews, the seafarers who are doing that journey, it is absolutely terrifying because they don't know what's going to come out of that coast at them. But I don't think we've heard the end of this. I don't think that this will be putting the Houthis back in their box, as some would like. I think it's almost certain that they will be planning some kind of retaliation.
Yeah.
Using a combination of drones and missiles that have survived this attack. Probably
This is hot water, guys. This is
somewhere,
hot stuff.
hidden in tunnels. So I think this could quite possibly go on for a few days, weeks, or even longer.
Frank, for the moment, thank you very much. And just a reminder, 7:30 this morning, so in about just under 20 minutes' time, speaking to James Heappey, who's the Minister for Armed Forces. So we've seen some of the images of the military action that's taken place. We will get an update at 7:30 this morning.
I think that's enough, guys. Please subscribe to Sean and Son and Joe's on the Force BBC Always. This is my friend Mikey Jimbo every Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. live on Surrey Hills Ratio today. And this is my friend Shane every Friday live on the Surrey Hills Ratio at 10 a.m. 12 a.m. Shane for the Years Race Station. And this is my friend John on the last show every Sunday at 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. live on the Waking Race Station. I hope that's video. Please subscribe to my Sean and Son and Joe's. Because this affects everyone's life. This does cost of things we buy. And the cost is going up quicker than it should do naturally. We are in deep, hot water war, holy war with the Middle East right now. You have been warned by anyone. It's kind of on Sunny Jones. Bye.